Come on. What is... Okay, I think we're live now, folks. Paul, am I live now? Can you just confirm? Okay, let me see if we can message him. See whether we can message Paul and find out. So, Boogie, you can't even type in a message. This is really, really, really frustrating. Okay, I'm assuming it's live now because I'm watching it on YouTube. So, apologies, folks. We suffered from the bug, which is basically OBS. If you schedule in OBS rather than in YouTube, and I thought it had been fixed, which is why I did it today. It's easier to schedule in OBS when you're doing, when you're sorting out the images and the software and everything else. But apparently, YouTube and OBS don't talk to each other, which is why it um, it gave me the green button on the bottom of the software in OBS telling me I was live, but YouTube it wasn't live. And I didn't have a separate window with YouTube showing on screen. Anyway, we are now live. So, yeah, 21 minutes into the action. That is very frustrating, folks. But here we go. I did say I couldn't cover the full event anyway, so I'll cover the finish, obviously, but at some point I'm going to have to dash away to join the kids for tea, and then I'll come back and we'll finish off the race towards the latter end. But I'll stay with it for as long as I can. We're still ironing out, with this new version, I'm still ironing out, there's a lot of bugs. And it's definitely not my system. Yes, it is with OTR and YouTube not talking to each other. That's down to me. But when I'm typing on the keyboard and when I'm using mouse clicks, there's a 5 to 10 second delay before the action actually happens on screen within RGT. And that's definitely an RGT. I've actually put in a support ticket because what I did in the two previous broadcasts, which I've done on the new app, I changed the keyboard and mouse for manual versions, i.e. cabled, USB cabled versions, and I still had the same problem. So it's definitely not like wireless or Bluetooth lag at my end. I mean, I have a mouse and keyboard that will do both wireless and Bluetooth. Tried them both and I still get the lag. Tried manual keyboards and I still get the lag. So this is an issue when I'm trying to tab down through the riders, taking an inordinate amount of time, 5 to 10 seconds, which can throw me at times. There we go. I pressed the button ages ago and it finally highlighted Tim coming up to the front now. So there are some bugs still to be worked out, but this issue with OBS and YouTube not talking to each other, I'm going to have to try and schedule all my events through YouTube and then fire up, make sure I've got a YouTube window actually running on screen to check that I'm live. Now you might say, well, that's an easy thing to do, but it's not when you've got so many different bits of software running and screen space to try and fill. But yes, that's what I'll do. We'll try and sort the problem. I'm hoping that OBS acknowledged that this version doesn't play nicely yet with the M1 Max, which is what I'm using. And a lot of apps still don't work with the M1 Max. We're still waiting for new versions of quite a lot of the software I use. So hopefully the issues will get sorted, but it's very frustrating when it happens. Now it does look, as I'm whittling away, it does look like these 4 riders have got a significant break now. And this could well be the winning move. I mean, we're only 17 kilometers into the race, but we've got 4 riders off the front. As you can see, Rowbottom is not going anywhere. The 3 riders are going to ride with him. So these 4 have got a 400-meter gap now, and it's growing. They're growing this gap all the time. So I suspect that this is a winning break. I don't see them being pulled back, even though there's 56 kilometers still left to race. I genuinely believe that the winner is going to come from these 4. Nice to see an OTR rider, Soderberg, in this group. Tim Cook, my friend, nice to see him up here. And Tim will be a contender for this one because he's got a fairly decent sprint. I'm dry. I need a cup of tea. Yeah, he's got a decent sprint and he is a flat land specialist. So I would expect him to do well on this course. I don't think he'll struggle to stay with these boys, and he's doing the right thing by saving watts, as you can see. But all the riders will take turns on the front. I think these 4 will simply work together. They've already pulled out another 50 meters, so they're almost up to 470 meters now. So let's have a look and see what's happening behind them. And see where we are with the rest of the race. Now, as I say, what happens is it takes a while for the keyboard to activate once I press the button. So hard work trying to keep an eye on it. You can see a fairly large. This is the remnants. There was about 19 riders. Then I think it got whittled down to about 17 riders. Then 16. So I think we're looking at 16 here because I think Evan's the last rider in this group. So basically, you've got 12 riders here, all riding together, bringing up the second group with the 4 riders off the front. So we'll work his way down through these 12 riders because they're likely to stay together for some time as well. I think these riders are settling in. Nobody's going to try and bridge across. Certainly, unless 3 or 4 of them decide to work together and push the pace, which could happen. I mean, Evan's on the front now, pushing it along, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's try and work his way through this group then. There's Marek, the last rider in this group. And then we've got Ivor Isafor in 18th place. And he's almost 2 kilometers behind that group that you saw in front a moment ago. And he's been followed by Paul Nichols. There we go, we press the key, but there's Paul. And Paul's in no man's land, but he could end up catching Ivor and working with him. He's certainly not going to wait for these riders behind him, which they think there's a group of 4 now. Well, in fact, more. Yeah, a group of 6 behind him. So I wouldn't have thought that Paul is going to sit up and wait for these because they're 1.2 kilometers behind. And that's a little bit too far to sit up for. He might get tired and do so later in the race, but I would have thought Paul will settle for the place he is on the road as we watch Bubnik making a circle. And these riders really would do well to work together. rather than individually be breaking the group apart. Who am I to tell them the tact? As we watch Howai at the back of the group, and then you can see Anne is taking advantage of my wheel. So go onto my wheel and he's letting me pull her along. There's Anne. Above threshold though at the moment, so or was that the brake? No, that could have been the braking effect. No, she's going around me. So yeah, she'd do well to work with me at the moment. Okay, let's go back to the front, find out what's of the four. Yeah, I think this is a given that these four will work together. I don't see any one of these four falling off the back at this moment in time. And I'm certainly not going to put I can't get my words out today. I'm certainly not going to pick a winner from these four at the moment, not until we're well into the race. I am going to go away and join my children, and then I'm going to come back in a little while and pick up commentary on the race. So I'll mute the mic so you don't get the background noises of the kids screaming in the bathtub. And what I'll do is I'll leave you with the leader of this group. I'll change the camera view slightly. See what we can do. We get to the front of this group. As we watch Tim Cook. We go. And let's zoom out a little bit to give you a bit more. Good. There you go. Now you may get obscured by trees at times like you're doing at the moment. Let's see if we can't. In fact, I might use the built-in camera. Let's try the orbit cam. What does that give us? Does that give us a better view? Yeah, there we go. So are we going to stick with that view, do you think? Have a look. Let's see what else we. What I'm doing here is testing the on-screen. We go. This is the first-person view. The on-screen camera views. That's the drone cam. Now the drone cam is probably one of the better views for showing the riders changing around, but it's not particularly an exciting. See what else we got. The moto. Yeah, we'll stay with the moto cam because that switches views for you, so you better see what's happening. Okay, folks. So I've got to go. I'll mute the mic and I'll be back for commentary a bit later on in the broadcast. They've got a long way to go. They've only done 22 kilometers. So we're not even a third of the distance in yet. And I'll catch up with you shortly. Okay, folks, I'm back with a cup of tea. I can probably speak now, and let's change the camera angle. Here we go, third person, but let's. I'm going to manually do it now, and then. Oh, we don't want that one. And then we'll have a look further down the field and see what's happening. So let's. Let's switch the action. We can. See if we can get this working. Last time. Remember this is one of the issues I had. Yeah, there we go. It's changing around now. Good. So let's see if we can't go down the field and have a look at what's happening behind this group now. There we go. So this is the large group that are working well together. They've actually pulled back some of the gap. So these lads are working together. I did see a message from Chris O'Hearn saying, come on, let's not put it up a notch. So it's not over by any means yet. Let's see, who have we got in? I mean, you've got Keith in this group here. Daniel's in this group, is it? Or is he saying bye-bye? Okay, let's see if we can find out who we've got in this group. I mean, we got some big hitters in this following chasing group. So I'd be surprised if they can't pull back. Rob Miller, strong rider, he's pulling them along on the front. So see if we can't. It's very, very difficult with this software to change riders because of the lag on the keyboard that I've reported. You've got a 5-10 second lag. You press a button and then nothing happens for a period of about 5 to 10 seconds. And it's the same with a mouse click. So it's can be very difficult trying to work your way through the field. I don't know whether this is just M1 Max or whether this is an issue with the new app, whether anybody else has reported this, because I haven't seen anybody else reporting the using spectate mode yet. So if anybody else is using spectate mode and they could let me know whether their system is working or whether they're having the same issue. I have put in a support ticket, but it's very frustrating because it makes trying to follow the action and move the camera very difficult. Chris O'Hearn is pulling them along on the front now. He's a very strong rider. I mean, if you look at the watches the guys in front are doing, and then you look at the watches these boys are doing, they're definitely closing the gap. Let's go. In fact, let's go to the front and have a look at the wattage the guys up front are putting in. Here we go. So they're rolling along at about 2.8, 3 watt kilos, but the guys behind are putting in far more than that. I mean, occasionally, yes, they're upping the pace here at the front. Sorry about the trees, folks. It's pretty difficult to try and get a view. There we go. That's better. So these folks are putting in efforts, but let's 5 point. I'm watching Keith behind putting in a 5.1 watt effort. So they are working considerably. These lads look, and in fact, they're putting in such an effort that they've managed to break the group up. He's putting in 5.6 watt kilos. So they are definitely trying to pull back the gap. Now, we're less than halfway, but not by much, into the race. 34 kilometers gone, 39 kilometers to go. So there's time for a change around. But these guys have got to keep working hard and trying to pull this gap back. Because if it does go to over a kilometre, out to over a kilometre, then they're not going to get it back. Apologise for my coughing and spluttering, folks. I'm full of cold. Had it for more than a week now and really suffering with my breathing as well. And even talking is getting me out of breath. Probably a blessing for some folks. So we'll stick with this group for a little while and just watch them putting in. I mean, look at Rob putting in a threshold effort here, going in the red. So they're certainly doing the best they can to try and pull this distance back, but it's not an easy task on a flat course. They are pegging it though. It's not growing. The gap isn't growing. So, but they can't just peg it. They've got to try and gain a little bit of ground on the riders in front. Okay, to be fair to the other riders behind, let's see if we can find out what's happening behind this group then. So, don't know who the last rider in this group is, but I'll just slowly press the keyboard so we don't automatically get sent to the back. Yeah, as Rob says, short turns help too. So through and off is definitely the way to do it. But you've got a couple of riders at the back that are suffering and struggling to make this pace. This rider here, look, just getting back into the group. If you are suffering at the back, your best place to be, that was Keith, I think, is to get into the middle of the pack. Get into the middle and take some recovery. As we watch Ivor Isafor from Moon Riders, he's in 17th place now, but he's in no man's land. Look, he's 4.6 kilometres away from the riders in front and 1.5 kilometres in front of Paul Nichols behind him. So this is a tough ask for Ivor in the middle there. We call it no man's land because he's not going to slow down and let the riders behind catch him, because that doesn't make any sense if you've got over a kilometre. But he's not going to catch the people in front either. So he's in no man's land. He's just basically riding his own pace, his own race. As we watch Paul, Hawaii, Flop, I think Bubnik's in here, Wyrinski, all working together. Munro as well. Get to mention Munro. So they're working together, but they're a long way back. You can see the different powers and the different category of riders in this race now. You've got the four up the front, the chasing group, and then you've got this group. And there's a significant distances between the groups. Check and see what's happening at the very back of the race and see how Anwai's doing. She's still bringing up the rear. Yeah, Anne's still bringing up the rear, so we'll just go and take a look at her. We take a look at Hal White. Putting in a big effort, but he's basically trying to increase the pace of this group. He needs them to work with him. He can't do it on his own. Bubnik is joining him, so putting in a big effort. Yeah, that's good. That's good riding. Yeah, but they don't want to be splitting this group, but everybody needs to work. Yeah, let's see if we can't get back to. Come on. There's Munro. He's last man here. And there's Anne, still working with me, still on my wheel. So sensible. Happily pull her along. And these four riders, like I say, the gap is more or less stuck at about 870 meters. It changes by the odd meter here and there, but to be fair to the group behind, they are doing a good job of holding this. These four riders are really working hard, really working together. Let's see if we can just zoom in on them a little bit and change the view. Let's get a behind view. There we go. You can see as I drag the mouse, the frame seems to just stick for a moment, and that's part of the issue with the lag that I'm getting. The frames seem to just stop, freeze up, and then release just for a brief second, but the lag is actually anything from 5 to 10 seconds. So, and it is definitely in the app. It's not my hardware. Although it could be something to do with it being an M1 Mac, and yeah, so I suppose it could be my. I want other people that are streaming and using spectate mode let me know if they're having mouse and keyboard issues. So these four riders, I don't see this changing. I think we're going to see them going pretty much towards the end of the race together. They all look pretty strong. They're all doing fair turns on the front. So it's unlikely that they'll break apart on a flat course like this. Especially when you can save so much energy by drafting. So once again, let's tab down and have a look at the group behind. There we go. We watch Chris O'Hearn is still doing sterling work on the front, along with Keith. I think they're well, there's three main drivers of this group, and that's Chris, Keith, and Rob Miller. I think it's fair to say they're doing the majority of the work. I mean, Chris O'Hearn, ex-Try rider, very, very strong rider. He gives me a wave. He won't mind doing the work on the front, but he does need help. Can't do it all himself. Take a drink of my tea. I do expect let's work his way down through this group and see how many we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Many. It's a bit of a gap there. A rider jumping across, and then there's a rider being dropped off. He's going to have to do a surge to get, which he's doing, and he's bringing riders with him, so that's good. So Marek is the rider at the back of this group. The lad in yellow that you just saw. I'm trying to just find the last rider and then see if we can't switch to. So hard with the keyboard. And when there's a lag like this to try and, I mean, normally I would just press the keyboard. It's almost instantaneous with the previous app. Press the keyboard and it switches the rider. But because there's this lag, very, very difficult to work your way through through the groups now. I think I'm on Graham at the moment, am I? No, now I'm on Graham. Okay, so now we should go to the rider behind Graham. There we go, and that's Evan. And it looks like Evan has pulled to the side of the road. He's got an issue. Now, I don't know whether it's a technical, whether it's a personal issue. But Evan obviously will need to keep an eye on that and see whether he rejoins the race or whether he's just having issues. Maybe he can message us in the chat and let us know what's going on. So we'll leave Evan and have a look at Ivor is the rider behind. Okay, Anne's struggling to stay with me at the 1.3. I can't change it, Anne. That's the automatic setting I'm using so that I can follow the race. So here we go. It is nice to see that this group, this is the third group on the road, are eventually joining up together and working together. This is a really good tactic because it just doesn't make sense to ride this kind of distance on your own or be in no man's land. In fact, I'm pretty sure that were it not for the fact that there's a relatively big distance involved, Ivor would not be riding on his own here. But it doesn't make sense for him to sit up, and it doesn't, and he's likely not going to catch the group at 5.5 kilometers in front. So hmm. Okay, let's get back to the front, have a look, see what's changed there. But Ivor's in no man's land, and he's likely to stay there for some time. And these boys are really pushing the pace up. You can see, you know, they're averaging 42 kilometers plus an hour, uh, which is a very fast pace. I mean, that's time trial pace. So it is a flat course, yes, but that's a pretty decent pace to be keeping. And they're taking it in turns through and off, which is why they're able to maintain it. Short turns on the front, you know. Tim is a real powerhouse. Low bottom from Razio Racing, he's a very strong rider as well. And I do think this is going to come down to a sprint finish between these riders here. And it would be difficult to pick one, to be fair. It really would. I mean, I know that Tim Cook is a strong rider, and Soderberg. It would be difficult. I think if anybody is going to not win this in the sprint, they've got to set off, with a few kilometres to go, and see if they can get a gap. But that's almost impossible on a flat course with riders of this calibre. So it is very, very likely to come down to a sprint. Where your positioning on the wheels is going to be what decides it. Who's got the best racecraft and the strongest sprint? Okay, let's see if we can work his way back down through this group. There we go. As we're looking at Keith now pulling them along behind. But the losing ground, I mean, they're managing to peg it, but it has grown now from 870 meters out to 960. So and I think this is Rob pulling them along now on the front. They're taking it in turns. Good to see Marek, who was at the back earlier in the yellow jersey. He's now taking the lead on the front. I don't want to be splitting this group up, but perhaps he's just trying to raise the pace, getting the group to raise the pace, which is not a bad tactic. Just see if we can join him. There we go. We watch Chris just close the gap up. That's not a bad tactic actually to just push off the front of this group and try and raise the pace and see who, the likes of Chris and Rob Miller will always go with you. So, if you've got riders that are strong enough to do this, then that's what you should be doing, because you're not going to close that gap unless you start to pull back some of this distance. They're not really doing that. They're just holding it at the moment. I mean, they're doing some strong turns, but so this is Ziegler we're watching at the moment. He's in on third wheel behind Chris. Not wearing a heart rate monitor, but he's saving by the draft as Rob just comes past now and takes over at the front. Let's just change view and see if we can't highlight Rob. Normally, as I say, I know I keep moaning about it. Well, I'm not really moaning, I'm just explaining to you folks. Normally, I would be able to just flick to Rob Miller and show you Rob on the front and check out his figures. But it's almost impossible to do because of the lag. By the time I've changed rider, the rider positions on the road have changed. You can see them all changing positions here. So it's not just as simple as pressing a key. I've got to try and press the key at the right time, allowing for the lag, which is incredibly hard to do. Small gap appear, but then pull it back. Try and work his way back to the front of this, because it does look like it's in danger of splitting. Where's Chris O'Hearn? He's in sixth place. So he's obviously off the front of the. Really, come on, page up. There we go. So yeah, there we go. They're the lads on the front. So Rob and Chris trying to pull it along. Well, that's the first time I've seen the name Cut Luca. So he's either been drafting and staying out of the action, the Masters rider, or he's just been riding such a canny race that he's been virtually invisible. I know I've watched Renault. I don't know whether I mentioned him before, but Renault's there as well. Obviously, you've got Graham. But yeah, sometimes if I don't mention a rider, it's because he's basically tucking himself into the group and hardly getting noticed. And that's a good tactic in a group race. I've mentioned it before in some of the bigger profile races. Yeah, they're working well together. Who's this going off the front of them? I don't know if you can hear my kids in the bathtub in the background. I can certainly. That sounds like they're having fun. But this is a nice new feature as well. The graphics that you can see on the screen, folks, the palm and the blue dot showing where the riders are on the road. That's quite a nifty feature for this race. Maybe we'll get more of that in the future. This road has been put together by Paul Nichols, who's really the sort of magic road guru here at OTR. Really knows his stuff and does a good job. So let's check up on the group in front. We've had a good, although this looks like Chris is really trying to lift the pace here. 4.4 watt kilos. So he's trying to lift the pace to get them to work together. I just saw the riders in front putting in threshold efforts. And the gap has gone out now to over a kilometre. So I think Chris here is trying to raise the pace, trying to get the riders to work with him, but everybody will be getting tired now. We've got 26 kilometres remaining, so we're almost 2/3 of the way into the race. And there'll be some tired legs out there. This is one for the endurance riders. You can see strongmen, Rob Miller, and who's that with him? They pulled even some more of the group back. So yeah, they're giving it a big effort. You can't knock them for not trying because they're holding the gap at the 1.04 kilometre, not really growing out fast. But it's just a metre here and there they're losing, and that's enough. So we'll just check out the leaders again. Here you go. And they really are a well-oiled machine at the moment. They're taking nice turns on the front, swapping the pace making. Tim's sitting in. Look, he's on low wattage, just recovering 2.1.9. I mean, that's the sign of a canny rider when he just sits in, gets a bit of recovery, and then does his turn on the front. And that's what you should be doing. So yeah, see if we can change the view slightly, get a slightly overhead and behind view. There we go. There are different, excuse me, there are different skins used to do the magic roads in RGT, and this is the Europe map, I believe. Lots of trees in it, and it can be difficult, as you can see at the moment, to sort of like try and constantly stay on the riders while not being obscured by the trees. But I like to manually do it rather than let the software do it. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm manually swapping the views around and see. And I'm getting a little bit more used to the mouse and the lag that's built in with the system at the moment. So I'm able to switch the mouse around a little bit and hopefully negate the efforts of we watch Tim Cook, 312 watts, and this is endurance heart rate for Tim, 163. So he's really putting in an effort, but this is not, this is not like close to his threshold at the moment. I'm saying that as we see him go red, but not really his threshold pace. This is more, I would say, his endurance pace. 41 kilometers an hour. They've slowed down slightly, and you can see the group behind is still holding it at 1.03, 1.04 kilometers. So this front group have slowed down. They were doing 42 kilometers an hour, and now we're looking at about the 39 kilometers an hour mark. So they've definitely eased up. Well, I won't say they've eased up, they've just slowed down. This will be attrition. Or they'll be getting tired. They've done 51 kilometers, an hour and 15 of racing. And with 22 kilometers to go, yeah, we're probably looking at the 1 hour 35 mark, give or take. So we'll see. Okay, let's join the group behind then and see what's happening with the group behind. And in fact, even we'll here we go. So the group behind now is split into two. You've got 7 riders here that you can see on the road. And then you've got a small gap to the riders behind. Now, it could come back together. So there you can see, saying 7, is it 7 or is it 6? Oh, there we go, yeah, 7th. So you've got 7 riders here. See if I can seamlessly work my way through this group and get to the changes view. Now we should go to the group behind. No, not yet. Like a game of chess. There we go. So it's Keith from OTR pushing along Group 3 on the road with Graham on his wheel now. In fact, I'm saying Graham on his wheel. Graham goes sailing past. So Keith puts in an effort to get on his wheel. House. God. However, the 2 riders behind are joining them once again. So is there anybody behind? There we go. So here's Ivor still in no man's land. He's fallen even further behind the group in front, but he's maintaining a steady gap on the group behind as well. He's basically settling into a 3 watt kilo effort ride here. Anne's saying goodbye to us, so excuse me. Thanks for riding, Anne. I'm sorry you can't make it to the end. It is a war of attrition, this kind of a race, and it must be hard being at the back and having nobody to work with. Did work with my my wheel for a while. As we watch, basically, this is the last group on the road now. So these folks are going to work together to try and get near to the. But there's a substantial difference. You can see the gaps here. These lads are more than 9 kilometers, 10 kilometers behind the 3rd group on the road. So there's a big difference. In fact, we'll check that out. We've got Paul Nichols just jumping off the front here. But these riders have got 30 kilometers to go. Let's have a look and see how many kilometers the front group have got to go. You see, they've got 19.5, so 10-kilometer difference, which is pretty big, pretty significant. Chris is saying good size group now, so they must have formed up again. So let's have a look at the chasing group. There we go. So how many we got in this chasing group? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 riders in the chasing group. And they've actually clawed back. Remember, it was 1.0304 of a kilometre. They've now pulled it back to 983 meters. So, yeah, they've pulled back some. Can they pull back more? Are we going to see an exciting finish, or are we going to see some of these riders absolutely bury themselves to try and get it back? It could make for an interesting race if they do, if they can get within shouting distance. I don't know. I doubt it myself, but I'd love to see it happen. I really would. It would be nice if we could see the gap close up to a kind of distance where, you know, in a sprint finish, we could see more riders taking part. I'll have to wait and see as we watch Marek going into the red. Trying to pull the group along, really working hard. Rob going into the red to get the group back up to him. So you can't deny these riders are really trying hard to close this gap. How many have we got? We got 7 of them, haven't we? But the gap has now grown to 1 kilometre again, so it's very, very hard trying to keep this going. Because these boys on the front are really, when they have to, they're really putting in big digs. We watch Soderberg doing 4 watt kilos on the front of this group. 4.2. So not hanging about. I mean, this is real good effort. We watch Poniatowski now take the lead. And you just saw him briefly go into the red there. Now, in terms of, there's 4 riders here. In terms of strongest riders at the finish, I don't think Poniatowski is going to be able to stay with the other guys in the sprint. I could be reading him wrong, but he does look to me to be the rider that will struggle the most. I'm not going to call him the weakest rider because I don't know, but he does look like the rider that will probably struggle the most. Now, I've watched Soderberg before, and he's got a very strong finish. But I kind of think that Soderberg, if he's going to win it, needs to go early. I don't think he's got a fast out-and-out sprint. He's very strong at the finish, and it could perhaps push off the front. We've seen him. I've actually watched him win doing that. But I know that Tim Cook has got a pretty good sprint. Rowbottom, I think, also has a good sprint. So I'd say if they're all together coming to the line, then they're the 2 favourites, Rowbottom and Cook. So watch Rowbottom putting in 5 watt kilos. And I would say Rowbottom is probably the favourite, but Tim might have something to say about that. I'm a bit reluctant to call it because these 4 riders are working so well together, all doing the fair share. We'll see. I'm going to reserve judgment for the time being before I call. Have a look and see what Chris and his gang are doing behind. They're not they're holding the gap. They're not letting the gap grow, but they're not closing it up again. See if we can get to them. I am pressing the keyboard, folks, to try and go backwards, but every time I do so, the lag effect is kicking in. And here's Chris. As I mentioned him, there he is. It must be a bit frustrating that you know, you're the strongest rider, but some of the other riders just aren't able to work at the pace you want to go at. So Chris is just basically having to settle because he can't do it on his own. Rob's probably the same as well. there's probably 3 riders in this group that are trying to up the pace. And the rest of the riders, I think, are sort of like not able to do big pulls on the front because they're just not strong enough. And that's no disrespect to those riders. It's just I think there are genuinely 3 riders in this group that are way stronger than the rest of the riders. And so they're not working as a real cohesive unit. Why I think we're seeing the gap, sometimes like Chris's pull on the front got it to under a kilometre, but once he's off the front, then like it's dropping to a kilometre again. I could be reading this wrong, but that's the way it looks to me. It looks like this is not really a group where once the weaker riders get on the front, they're able to pull the pace along at the same pace that Chris was doing. I mean, I'm not doing any of the riders a disservice. This fabulous riding to stay with this pace and to keep it going for this distance. Right now, it does look like he's say that and he just closes the gap. Nice to see. But we're getting into the last 15 kilometres now, and there must be some tired legs there. Excuse me. There must be some very tired legs. Let's have a look at what's happening right at the back of the field, though. So we'll leave this group for the time being as we watch 2 of the riders pushing off the front. But we'll come back to it and check the action shortly. It's strange because I didn't expect to be able to cover this much of the race. I thought I would have to run away again, but I've not been called for family duties, so I'm going to try and stay with it now until the finish. Should be able to do so. Let's have a look and see what's happening at the back. Pressing the keyboard, but nothing's happening. We go. Oh, there we go. There we go. So this is 3rd group on the road. Who have we got here? We've got Keith, Graham, Ellis, and Mantovani. They just look like they're settled. Graham's having a bit of a push off the front. But I think these 4 will probably just settle into where they are on the road and should work together. Said no, and he's putting in some good wattage here to get a gap. Mantovani's gone with him, and they've opened up about 12 metres on Keith, but I think Keith will pull this back. And in fact, there you go. So no sooner do the thought enter my head, and Keith does exactly that, pulls the gap back. So, and in fact has a dig himself to raise the pace. So that's good riding, Keith. Well done, mate. But they really should be, instead of knocking 7 bells out of each other, they should be working together here for a little while longer. They've still got 14 kilometres to go, so, work together and then duke it out in the last few kilometres. So let's see who's behind this group. I think we've got, is it Ivor, next rider on the road? So there we go. Oh, sorry. See, there's the problem I have, folks. You press the mouse, the keyboard, and it doesn't react, and then you press it again and it does react. Okay, so there's Ivor, and still in no man's land, still not closing up on the group behind, still holding the same gap to the riders behind. So my guess is he's going to finish in this position on the road. I don't see him slowing down or speeding up. I think he's just settling into his own endurance pace, which is quite a high pace, I have to add. And he's just going to be happy where he finishes. And here's my teammate Paul Nichols. This is the same Paul Nichols that's actually done this course. So we've him to thank for putting it all together, along with Chris O'Hearn, who's actually ridden these roads in real life. So Chris was able to give his feedback and everything on the roads. And who's this riding with Paul? I think it's Klopp, isn't it? The 3R ride. Yes, it's. I don't know his first name. Seem to think Michael seems to ring a bell. Michael Klopp, but yeah, he's not seen much of him, to be honest. Dutch rider. No, that's not Dutch flag, is it? Should know because that's where I am. Yes, it's the Dutch flag. Of course it is. Silly me. Okay, so who's behind this group now? Well, look, Mr. Wywinski, Munro, Bubnik, and Y. So these four are bringing up the rear, thankfully working together and bringing up the rear of the race. But by now, I reckon the leaders should have about 10 kilometers to go. So let's rejoin them. Yep, there we go. 10 point, and it's down to 3. Now, what did I say in my commentary, folks? What did I say? I said that I thought that Poniatowski was, I wasn't going to use the term the weakest, but his burning matches, look, he was 14 meters off them. His burning matches already to get back to this group. And I don't think it will be the first time he has to do that as we watch it again. Now, there is a bug that's been reported where you get like micro dropouts. Could that be why he's dropping off this group? Or is it just that he's too tired and attrition is happening? I don't know, but there is a bug, folks. So don't read too much into, and I'm certainly not, read too much into the fact that he's been dropped off the back and having to chase multiple times. This could be the bug. If it's not the bug and it's him having to, I mean, whichever it is, he's still having to do this work, jumping back onto them. And in fact, the gap is growing now. I don't think he's going to get back. I hope it wasn't the bug, and I hope it was just that he couldn't stay with the pace. Because they have upped it again. You notice it went down to about 39, now back up to 42 and above. So they have upped the pace, these 3 riders, because they've pulled out a bigger gap as well on the chasing group. So my first prediction was correct when I said that Poniatowski would be the one to go from this group. And my next prediction was that Soderberg would probably be the rider to try and go for a long one. I don't think he's an out-and-out sprinter. Whereas I would say Tim is. So, although it does look like Soderberg and Rowbottom are trying to get rid of the sprinter, Tim's going into the red trying to hold them, but he's already... Come on, Tim, get back on. Yes, well done. But that's going to cut... You see, that's what we call burning matches, folks. When you have to close a small gap, you know, even 7-10 meters can be... can really take energy out of your legs. Or, you know, take it out of your legs. And you could end up paying for that later in the ride. And if it happens multiple times, you only have so many matches in your box that you can strike before you end up losing out and having to let the pushers off the front go. Now, Tim won't try and push off the front. He's got more sense than that. He'll do his fair turns on the front, but he won't try and push off the front. Tim's more sensible, and I think he'll just settle for trying to hold wheels. And look for the other riders to bring him into the finish. That would be my guess. I could be reading it wrong, but again, I've watched these riders enough to know that that's the tactic that Tim will use. But Soderbergh could try and catch both of these two riders out. I'm fairly convinced he will try to go for a long one. Or at least up the pace to the point where he'll try to find out, whether these riders can stay with him. And I say that, and Tim puts in an effort to get to the front, but he's not going to jump off the front. So this is getting exciting. This is getting exciting. I still maintain that, and you can see Rowbottom is actually the one that's saving the most watts here and doing the least amount of work. And I would say that he's, of the three riders, he's probably the strongest of the three. So yeah, they need to watch him. They need to make sure he doesn't pull a fast one on them as Tim gives me a wave. I'm staying with these three for the time being because this is the period of the race where I think the sorting out of these three riders could happen. And I don't want to miss a break if Soderbergh does decide to go for the long one. So we'll probably stay, how far behind? We're 1.5 kilometers to the group behind. So I think we can afford the luxury of staying with this group for the time being and seeing what happens as they switch for positions here. I think this is where the best of the action is going to take place at the head of the race. I did wonder what the per was. And I should know because I've watched him enough. Per Sonderberg. So and I should be rooting for Soderbergh because he is OTR, of course. But I don't know. I've ridden quite a lot with Tim, so I have a soft spot for him. And the other thing I can say about Tim Cook is he always gives 110%. I've never seen him take part in an event, a race type event where he hasn't absolutely buried himself. So I'd expect him to do the same here. So although I should be rooting for Soderbergh because he's my OTR teammate, I sort of I'm half hoping that Tim can take the sprint. But if Soderbergh does push off the front, then he could make it stick. Depends whether he's got enough left. I've never watched him over this kind of distance before, so you know, and Tim is trying to break the elastic on the front here as well. I don't think this is going to work though. And Rowbottom, look how effortlessly he sort of slowly pulls it back without going into the red. I think he's riding a very canny race here. See if we can get rid of the tree. Zoom in a bit and get rid of the trees. Does that help? So 5 kilometers to go. And it's still looking like a sprint finish. And I think you'll agree it's been enjoyable. Flat courses aren't really my thing, and even commentating on flat courses, I can sometimes find a little bit dull. But I don't think this has been dull. I think it's been quite interesting with the, you know, Chris O'Hearn and his friends in the chasing group trying to pull it back. I mean, we can see Poniatowski now has dropped back to 300 meters behind, so he just couldn't hold the pace. But I do want to find out whether he did have technical issues with the known bug, the known dropout bug. As we see Soderberg, look, trying to break. This is fascinating battle. They have actually slowed down a little bit as we watch, and they're on a pan flat section here, and they have actually slowed down a little bit in terms of the pace. So perhaps they are starting to just play a little bit of cat and mouse, just try and get that recovery in the legs, because they're definitely slowing down, and you can see that the distance to the group behind is coming down, not significantly enough, but even Poniatowski is pulling back some distance, which tells you that these three are playing cat and mouse and slowing down. I mean, the pace has dropped now to, well, it's 37 at the moment, but it dropped to 35 kilometers an hour. So they're definitely easing up slightly. And what they'll be trying to do is just get that little bit of recovery and get the lactate out of the legs, ready for, because they are no doubt about it, getting ready for a sprint finish. So I still maintain that Soderberg will possibly go for a long one. I've seen Tim go for long ones as well in the past, but not in a field of this quality. So, say field, there's only two other riders. I'd be very surprised if Tim can pull off a long one here. I think he's probably better off waiting for the sprint. He doesn't want to do too much work on the front. Rowbottom is by far the rider that's taking it easy here, and has been doing so for this last 10 kilometers. So, and you can't fault him for that. That's good race tactics. I mean, that's what it's about. Some riders will call them wheel suckers, but the idea of the game is to win the race. So if that means staying on a wheel, you stay on a wheel. The danger is, though, is that, if a rider jumps off the front and you're not watching, but Rowbottom goes into the red to get on Tim's wheel. So he's aware of the danger. He's not going to let Tim make the jump. It's going to be crucial coming into the finish, who actually does do the work on the front and who are the riders that sit in. Because I think that's going to be key. And I do think the winner will come from drafting on a wheel. It won't be the rider sort of like pushing off the front and then putting in a surge. That's not going to happen here. It's going to be a rider coming off the wheel and doing a slingshot round. So let's look for the tactics being used. Soderberg is putting in a lot of work on the front here. Obviously, he must be feeling good to do this. But he's a fair distance out, 2.4. That's, he can quite easily pull over, let somebody else come on the front. Although it does look like he's going for his long one. There you go. What did I tell you, folks? This is Soderberg's style. He goes for long ones. And Tim has realised and is trying to get on his wheel. Soderberg has got a 20-metre gap. Tim's bringing it down. Yeah, he's bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down. He's going to get on his wheel. So Tim's strong enough to get on his wheel. In fact, a shot past. Now Rowbottom is going. He's watched Tim do like the catch, and perfect tactics there from Rowbottom. Let your man burn his legs, but Tim's having none of it. He's getting on his wheel nice and steady. He doesn't want to come past. No, don't come past Tim. Stay on his wheel. Because Rowbottom is the rider here that's done the least amount of work in the last 10 kilometres. And like I say, that's not a criticism. That's good, sensible racing. This is going to go down to the wire, I feel now. Soderbergh tried his best to do the long one. So I called two tactics correctly, folks. I said Poniatowski would be dropped by these three riders. And I also said that Soderbergh would go for a long one. So I called both those. Now, have I called the third part of it? Have I called the winner? See what happens. Still think Soderbergh may well try and again go for that long one again. Got a kilometre to go because he's not a sprinter. Got a good engine. He's going to try and go for a long one again. These guys are really putting in an effort here. Exciting racing, folks. I'm really enjoying this. I really am. I mean, it's come down to a three-man sprint at the end of 74 kilometres. You can't ask for much more than that. Tim, don't go on the front, sir. Don't go. There's Soderbergh. Get on his wheel. Come on his wheel. Don't go on the. Go off the front. So careful here. Now, are we going to have a straight? Is it a straight run? Yeah, it looks like it's a straight run into the finish. So it looks like we turn this sharp bend up ahead. You can see the road's straight for a little way here. We turn this bend, and then I think we've got a rather flat section to not flat, a rather straight section to finish. So yeah, I'm rooting for Tim as well, Rob. So I shouldn't be. I should be rooting for Per, but I'm rooting for Tim. And he's gone. He's gone. He's gone. Has he got it? Has he got it? Has he got it? He's got it. Yes. So I called all three, folks. There you go. Now then, those folks that say I don't know what I'm talking about, I called all three of the top tactics. What a race. What a great race. Let's try and get to the action now as we watch. Whoops. Let's see if we can find Poniatowski. Come on. Keyboard is letting me down again. Come on. Let's get to Poniatowski. There we go. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, come on. There we go. Hate this keyboard lag. Because you press the buttons and you have to wait for them to take effect. So he's going to hang on to his fourth place. I think his name's Timo. Or no, sorry, it's Thomas. Thomas Poniatowski. Well done, Thomas. And let's see if we can highlight. Should be Rob coming up next and his group. So who's going to take fifth place? Is it going to be Molyneux? Is it going to be Rob? Chris? Come on, guys. Who's your money on out of this lot? I'm not going to call this one. Oh, I know Rob's got a strong kick on him. So are they going to actually fight for the positions here? I would. If I was a rider of this caliber. I mean, Chris O'Hearn, yeah, he should take it, but yeah, he's going for a long one, he's Chris. Rob will go with him. Rob could well take him on the line. Yeah, in fact, even before the line. There you go. I said Rob was probably one of the stronger riders in the group. Rob and Chris. So yeah, a worthy fifth place for Rob. I think he's deserved it because he's worked really, really hard in the group. Well done, Rob. Yeah, well done, mate. Now, as I say, normally, folks, I would be able to press the key on the keyboard and show you the next rider coming over the line. But because of the lag, when the riders are in a group, multiple riders are coming over the line. So my apologies, it is not my fault. I just cannot physically get the software to behave. We watch Marek coming in, 11th place. I mean, if there's a gap like this, then yeah, I can highlight the riders. So there's Marek coming in, and I'm pressing the key now, and watch what happens. I'm continuing to talk, and then eventually we get it changing. So here you can see this was the third group. Now is Keith going to try and push for this 12th place out of these four riders? You've got Ellis, Mantovani, Keith and Graham. And these four riders have ridden together for quite a long period. So it'll be interesting to see who goes for the push and the win at the end. This has been a fabulous race. It looks like Keith, unless he's going to do a long one, although there's plenty of time yet. See what happens. Watch Graham putting in 8 kilos on the front with Ellis. High wattage. Keith's putting in high wattage behind, but I think he's letting this one go. Watch Graham. Graham's going to take this one. There you go. Watch Ellis coming in behind him. Mantovani. And Keith. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of that group. Up down to the next rider, which is Ivor. So Ivor's going to get his 16th place. He's in no danger of being caught. And then that little group that you saw behind, folks, is now split up. So you've got Paul Nichols ahead of Bob. So and it's going to be quite a while before we see these riders coming in as well. 7.8 kilometers to go. So what? That's about 13 minutes, give or take. But I think what time have we got? Might have to dash away for tea. So I would love, and normally I do, folks, I would love to be able to stay with the action, but I've got to join my family for tea time, and it's that time now. So I do apologise. I was able to catch the finish of the race, which I was pretty sure I would be able to do, but I do have to run away. Don't think I can leave it on auto. Although I will try. I can always edit the video later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to one of the I don't know whether switching to the camera will actually change riders once a rider has come in. So we'll stay with Isafor as third person and see what happens. What I'm hoping is that the software will automatically switch to the next rider on the road, but I can't guarantee that. But I do have to go, folks. So I'm going to leave it running, and if not, I'll edit the video later. Thanks very much for those that have tuned in. Thanks, Paul. Fantastic course you've put together here, mate. And a fantastic race. I think we've kicked off the series with a bang. And I'm sorry about the glitches at the start with YouTube and OBS, but we'll get that sorted. That's the whole point of me doing these early broadcasts, to get glitches out of the way. Okay, thanks for watching, folks. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, thanks for watching, folks. That's a wrap, and we'll see you in the next one. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get all the riders coming over the line at the end. I had to run away for family time and my tea. But we'll catch you tomorrow when we have the OTR news broadcast. And that'll be going out around about lunchtime. So thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you haven't already, or subscribe. And we'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.